Arizona noon on the 7th of June. I said I love this movie from the earth to the moon. Let's do it. Okay, everybody, when I was a kid, you wanted one of two things. You either wanted a black Trans Am so you could be the bandit from Smokey and the Bandit, or you wanted a big black Mack truck so you could be just like the rubber duck. This is the movie that made the second one. Your choice. Convoy, 1978, one of the all-time greats of all times. I love this movie. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie. This movie is the shit. But before we go any further, as always, to the trailer.
Breaker 19, this here's a rubber duck. You got a copy on me, Big Ben? Come on. Yeah, 10-4, Big Ben, for sure, for sure. By golly, it's clean clear to Flagtown. Come on. Yeah, it's a big 10-4 there, Big Ben. Yeah, we definitely got the front door, good buddy. Mercy sakes alive, it looks like we've got us a convoy.
It was the dark of the moon on the 6th of June in a Kenworth pulling logs. Cab over Pete with a reefer on and a Jimmy hauling hogs. We was heading for Bear on I-10 about a mile out of Shaky Town. I says, Pigpen, this here's a rubber duck, and I'm about to put the hammer down. Tulsa town, we had 85 trucks in all, but there's a roadblock up on the Cloverleaf, and them bears was wall to wall. Yeah, them smokies as thick as bugs on the bumper. They even had a bear in the air. I says, calling all trucks, this here's the duck. We about to go a-hunting bear.
Ain't she a beautiful sight? Come on and join our convoy. Ain't nothing but a getting our way. We gonna go this duck in convoy across the USA.
Hey, you want to give me a 10-9 on that, Big Ben? Big Ben, you're still too close. Yeah, they're both mercy sake, you better back off.
Well, we rolled up Interstate 44 like a rocket sled on rails. We tore up all of our swindle sheets and left them setting on scales. By the time we hit that shy town, them bears was getting smart. They'd brought up some reinforcements from the Illinois National Guard. There's armored cars and tanks and jeeps and rigs of every size. Yeah, them chicken coops was full of bears, and choppers filled the skies. Well, we shot the line, we went for broke, with 1,000 screaming trucks, and 11 long-haired friends of Jesus in a chartreuse microbus. Well, we laid a strip for the Jersey Shore and prepared to cross the line. I could see the bridge was lined with bears, but it didn't have a doggone dime. I says, Pigpen, this here's a rubber duck. We just ain't a-gonna pay no toll. So we crashed the gate doing 98 and just let them truckers roll 10-4.
Buddy, we're going to back on out here, so keep the bugs off your glass and the bears off your tails. We'll catch you on the flip-flop. This here's a rubber duck on the side. We gone. Bye-bye.
Okay, this motion picture was directed by Sam Peckinpah. Come on, we all know Sam Peckinpah, legendary director, master at his craft. His way of blending action with slow motion was just the shit. He did Convoy. He did The Wild Bunch. He did, with Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen, one of the all-time classics, The Getaway. He did Junior Bonner and Straw Dogs and Cross of Iron, and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and Major Dundee, and he did another one of my all-time favorites, The Killer Elite, with James Caan and Burt Young. I love that motion picture. And one of the things we just have to say, I guess, is that Sam Peckinpah was known for being a little bit of a lunatic. He had been drinking through most of his career, and he got worse and worse as his career went along, and he was a raging alcoholic, and by the time he made it to Convoy, he was so loaded up on cocaine and loaded up on alcohol that this movie went off the rails numerous times. Almost everybody who worked in this motion picture said it was the worst experience of their life. Shit going wrong, stuff unorganized, it was crazy, he was fighting for producers. Hell, at one point, James Coburn had to come in and direct a couple of scenes just because this shit was just falling apart. He wouldn't come out of his trailer. It was a mess. But the final product is a Sam Peckinpah flick, and this shit is awesome. Okay, playing the rubber duck, we got Kris Kristofferson. You're talking about a man that's had a legendary career. Now, he's only been in like 100 and change motion pictures and TV movies and shit like that. But an amazing career as a songwriter and an amazing career as a musician. I mean, you're talking he was in Convoy. You're talking he was in the third version of A Star Is Born? I don't know, some shit like that. He was in that. He was in Blade 1, 2, and 3, I See You, Millennium, Big Top Pee-wee, songwriter, Vigilante Force, Semi-Tough, the football flick. He was in a bunch of shit, and he was always really good in that shit. One of those guys that made you feel like you were just watching one of the boys, one of the guys that you knew. He seemed like an earthbound kind of guy, and that's what he was, and that's what he is, and that's what he does. So, as the rubber duck, he was amazing in this. Okay, playing Melissa was Ali MacGraw. Now, Ali MacGraw is kind of funny because she has this career that people think it was longer and bigger than what it really was. She wasn't in that many movies. She didn't act that many times. She was in Goodbye Columbus, and she was in The Getaway, which I love, and it's one of my all-time favorites. She's always going to be remembered for Love Story, and she was in this flick Players, and she was on TV and stuff like, Dynasty and The Winds of War. But really, her career is way, way, way shorter than people might realize. She had that long love affair, or however long it was, with Steve McQueen, and she's kind of known for that. But her career as an actress is pretty short and pretty small to have the legacy that it has. So, is what it is, did what it did, was what it was, but she's in this, and that's all I give a shit about. Well, and The Getaway. Okay, playing dirty Lyle Wallace. Ernest Borgnine. What more do you need to say than just Ernest Borgnine? The man almost lived to 4,000 years old. He was in a quadrillion movies, and he was always the shit. Dude, you're talking Marty. You're talking Escape from New York. You're talking The Poseidon Adventure. You're talking Gattaca and Red and The Black Hole. He was in The Greatest with Muhammad Ali, The Dirty Dozen, Ice Station Zebra. He was in another really schlocky little shit film called Super Fuzz, but for some reason I really love, and I don't know why. And he was on TV in McHale's Navy and the movie of it. And he was an Airwolf for all that time. So, Ernest Borgnine, come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. All right, playing Pigpen, or Love Machine, as he much preferred, is Burt Young. Now, Burt Young, come on, man. How can you not? I mean, Burt Young, Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 17, 18, 25, it doesn't matter. He was in all those flicks, and you know how much we loved that. He was also in Chinatown. He was in The Killer Elite with James Caan, I've talked about before. He was in Mickey Blue Eyes, and The Good Life, and Betsy's Wedding, and Blood Beach, and another movie I love from the early 90s, Excessive Force with Thomas Ian Griffin, I think his name was. So anyway, Burt Young, long career, monstrous career, masterful career. We all love him. Never turns his neck. Always head with the shoulders. Burt Young, bam. Okay, we all love the widow, Madge Sinclair. Now, she had a really cool role in this, obviously, and she was also in Coming to America, which was really cool. But really, I think that her bulk of her career was mostly made and grown and remembered in television. I mean, you're talking she was in Roots. You're talking she was on Trapper John M.D. You're talking she was on O'Hara and Gabriel's Fire and Pros and Cons and Queen and Me and the Boys. Long career. Passed away, sadly, a while back. You know what I mean? But she had a lot of TV work and some really good movie roles. So, Madge Sinclair, when you see her face, you go, oh yeah, but she's been gone for a while. Kind of a shame. It is what it is. Let's keep going. Always give her a tip of the hat. Okay, he's playing Spider Mike was Franklyn. Ajaye. Now, he had a long career, started way back in the 70s with the ultimate cool fucking flick, Car Wash. But he was also in some really, really cool other stuff. I mean, he was in The Burbs. He was in The Jazz Singer. He was in Bridesmaids and Stir Crazy. He was on TV in Deadwood and Private Island and popped up on shows like 227. So, really cool career. You see the face and you automatically kind of remember him and know him and all that kind of stuff. Always did a good job. Franklyn Ajaye, bam. Okay, playing newsman Chuck Arnold was Brian Davies. Now, he had a pretty cool career going. You know, I mean, he was in a bunch of movies. He was in things like Mickey Blue Eyes. He was in American Gigolo. He was in The Age of Innocence and Convoy. But he had a really long career on TV, too. He was in stuff like All My Children. He was on stuff like Law and Order. He was in stuff like, you know, Wonder Woman and One Life to Live. So, had a long career. You see his face, you're like, I know I've seen him somewhere before. I know I've seen him somewhere before, because he's done a lot of work before, and that's plainly why. Anyway, he does a good job in this, so, hey, gotta give him credit. And finally playing Governor Haskins with Seymour Cassel. Now, he had been in a ton of shit. I mean, as soon as you see that face, you know he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in stuff like Tin Men, Double Exposure, The Mountain Men, California Dreamin', Death Game, Coogan's Bluff, Faces. He was on TV shows like Emergency, Matlock, Under Suspicion, Good Company, Tracy Takes On, ER, Heist. Long career. Did a lot of shit, folks. A lot of shit. You see the face, you remember the face. And there's reasons. All right, let's get to the story. I can't wait to go. Okay, everybody, this motion picture was made because of a song, I shit you not. There was a song by a singer, I think his name was C.W. McCall or whatever he went by at that point, called Convoy. And somebody said, hey, let's make a movie called Convoy about truckers. And here we are. And the plot of this motion picture is so ridiculously simple and stupid. It's really a grindhouse flick with a budget. That's all it was. Grindhouse flick with a budget and a masterful director. And the whole premise is this. Cops are razzing truckers and busting their nuts and giving them tickets all the time and putting them in speed traps and all sort of kind of stuff. A fight breaks out at a diner between the truckers, between the cops. Truckers beat the shit out of the cops, and then they say, we gotta get out of the state. There you go. Now, of course, there's more that happens in this. You got Ali MacGraw floating around, and she's this photographer that was on her way somewhere who kind of falls in line with the duck. I'll let you experience why. And she's along for the ride, kind of like the outsider trapped in there with the truck drivers as they're running for their lives to get out of the state and then eventually the country to get away from law enforcement. But this thing grows into a mythic kind of proportion where literally you have every trucker that these guys pass by jump into the convoy behind them and build this massive rolling wall of steel, thousands of trucks long. They don't know why they're there. They're just there to lend support, really, I guess. But there's only like 3 or 4 truckers that are really trying to get the hell out of Dodge. There's other kinds of stuff that takes place. You know, Spider Mike, who's one of the 3 guys that originally got into trouble, he has to go back, and, you know, the cops nail him, and they put him in a prison cell, beat the hell out of him, and then all the truckers show up, and they drive their trucks through the town, and they smash everything in town with their big mega-sized trucks, and they flatten buildings and flatten police stations and all this other kind of shit. That's basically the story. I don't want to go too far into it because I want you to experience why this movie is so great. It's so simple and so dumb. It'd be like if I sat here and tried to explain Smokey and the Bandit. You go, that's the fucking plot? That's the fucking plot. That's all there is to it. That's all it is. It's a very simple movie. That's the story. I'm not going to walk you through scene by scene because the summation is much more important than the story. Okay, everybody, I'm going to tell you why I love this motion picture, and I do love this motion picture. And this motion picture had everything going against it from the beginning. I mean, you had a plot that was utterly ridiculous and simplistic and stupid. You had the fact that the director was coked up and out of his mind and barely directing the movie and doing whatever the hell he was doing. You had a cast, by their own admission, partying harder than they should have been. Half of them drunk, half of them didn't want to be there, and half of them were loaded up on drugs. I mean, this was a Wild West show of a motion picture. But when you watch it on the screen, you see pure Peckinpah. You see the beautiful Arizona landscapes, that white sand sweeping by. He makes everything so majestic and powerful and big. Then you have the fact that you have his traditional heat of action mixed with slow motion vibe that he did in so many movies like The Killer Elite and The Getaway and all that kind of stuff. This movie oozes Peckinpah, even though at the end they wound up taking final cut away from him and final edit because the guy was out of control. It is what it is. But it's still a Peckinpah flick. It feels like a Peckinpah flick, and it's just masterfully done and beautifully shot. The actors, everybody, I don't care if it's Burt Young, I don't care if it's Kris Kristofferson, they feel like people you know. They don't feel like pretty boys. If this shit was shot today, it would be like, the Rubber Duck would be Tom Cruise, and Pigpen, Love Machine would be Brad Pitt, and then, fucking whoever that guy was that was in the Blade Runner Part 2 movie there, he would be the next guy. It would be that kind of a motion picture. But these dudes look like dudes. They don't look like guys you would hang with. Spider Mike looks like the guy that's working on your car. Pigpen looks like the guy that's hitting on your aunt. They look like normal people, and they act like normal people, and they relate like normal people. And as far as this plot goes, which is utterly ridiculous, that they're just forming this monstrous convoy and running state line to the country line to head into Mexico, whatever the hell they're doing. During it, because it's given to you by characters that are so believable and so down to earth and so salt of the earth looking, you believe everything that's going on. You follow it. You forgive stupid things like, why don't the police ever just puncture the tires on some of these trucks? Why don't they ever just shoot out the tires on these trucks? This shit would be over in an hour. But it just keeps going on and on and on, and you allow it and you roll with it and you vibe with it, and you just don't care until you have the ultimate climax at the end of it, which is utterly goddamn ridiculous. I mean, why would you take somebody's tires out when you can bring in the National Guard and tanks and all this other kind of crazy shit? It's utterly insane. But you don't care because the characters are so cool and they're all so relatable. The widow, she's the chick next door. You know what I mean? They're all the people that you know in a motion picture, and none of them have superpowers. None of them can do incredible things. None of them can do anything above and beyond what anybody else could do. They're just doing awesome, cool shit. And another thing, this is of an era of these kind of motion pictures just don't exist anymore. They don't make this kind of shit anymore. It's just the way it is. Motion pictures aren't like this. This motion picture really spoke about freedom. That's what the whole thing Peckinpah was going for. If you look at this motion picture, you got two main characters. You got the Duck and you got Dirty Lyle. And what are they? They're both independents. They refuse to join unions. Lyle doesn't want nothing to do with the police unions, and the Duck doesn't want anything to do with the trucker unions. And you can see that this motion picture is screaming out about, like, the truck drivers are getting tired of being brought into this confined thing where now they're just part of a bigger machine, and they don't really enjoy that, and they're mad at the police because the police are coming down on them, but the police are having their own issues. And it's about two guys on opposite ends of the spectrum that are both renegades, and they both want freedom, and whether good or bad. And you have the fact that the truckers are just revolting. It's one of those motion pictures made in 1978 where they're sitting there and saying, hey man, we just want to break through from the freedom of the government and the society and all the bullshit. We want to be cowboys. We want to have our own lives in our own hands. Jesus God Almighty, could you imagine these guys in 2019 in the country we've become now? For fuck's sake. Anyway, please go out there, check it out. Watch Convoy. It's one of the funnest rides, one of my fondest childhood memories. It's a movie that speaks to adventure and freedom and rebellion and just people doing what people doing. The men were men, the women were women, everybody was doing their thing. It's a guy flick with strong chicks in it too. It's everything that you could want it to be. It speaks of its time, a fucking better time than we got now, by the way. And I'm just going to leave you with that. Go watch Convoy, enjoy it, love it, experience it. Bye. Take care, everybody. God bless. See you soon. Peace.